So we are back with our second segment of our Thought Leadership Professional Development Series with Amber Hurdle. She is the CEO of Hurdle Consulting, and she is also a well sought after speaker, coach, talent optimization specialist. She's been working with celebrities and Fortune 100 companies, and we're really not only lucky to have her, but also really appreciative of her taking the time to be with our group. So Amber, since I don't seem to, my audio seems to be flawed, I'm going to mute myself and turn this over to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Amy, again for having me. And I love your community. They're so engaged. I'm glad to be here with all of you, whether you're live now or you're watching in the future via the replay. Just real quick, in case you did not catch any of that and you're just super excited about the topic of change, you didn't go back and watch the thought leadership. The one sentence version of who I am and what I'm about is I got knocked up when I was 16. I have a pretty groovy life now, and everything that I teach comes from a place of personal experience that was then used to help other people. So I like to refer to myself as the wounded healer. That's what I do now. And so that positioning yourself, that personal branding, the leadership and influence, and especially thriving in change, those are all things that I had to figure out on my own. So last time we spoke about thought leadership and understanding what makes you unique and valuable. And the reason why I always start with that, with the thought leadership, with personal branding, whatever that looks like, is because I can kind of trick you into becoming self-aware very quickly. So why does self-awareness matter when we're trying to build upon our influence? And when you're leading through change, you most certainly need to be super influential. We need that self-awareness because only when we start understanding what makes us tick, when we understand how we naturally behave, how we naturally show up, how we naturally communicate, how we need to move about the world, only then can we see and harvest the greatness in others and start identifying things in other people in those same categories. But we also can understand, what is it about me that's great, and I really need to strengthen that. And then we also need to understand where we're fragile and how do I bubble wrap that with systems and processes and people and the different types of environments that you can create in your life. So today, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm about the different stages of the change cycle. I want you to really understand, as we have shifted dramatically. I mean, we just have whiplash from 2020. Right when we think we have our poop in a group, we do not. And something else hits us square in the jaw. And so I want you to understand where you are. And then again, when you have an understanding of where you are, it's so much easier for you to be able to identify where your team members are. And so we're also going to talk about, well, now that we have awareness, where is here? Now we can talk about, what does this mean in terms of the strength of your business? And then we're going to talk about my go-to ways to increase your leadership, increase your influence, and what that looks like in terms of the agility and the flexibility that's going to set you up for not only success, but for your sanity. And I think the sanity piece is very important for all of us. I know I just came back from a refresh. Y'all saw me last week with my side braid and no makeup on and my glasses with the beach behind me. I'm feeling refreshed today. My energy is up, so let's get going. Now, unfortunately, the tools that I have, I am certified in the change cycle, but the tools that I have are not the best. So I hope that this comes through clearly on your screen. I will walk you through it so that in case this isn't super clear, you can at least hear my words. So the change cycle is brilliant. I went through it. I discovered this through a colleague several years ago, right where it was a critical time for me. And just understanding where I was in the cycle and where the potential for me to go was, changed the game for me. I became obsessed with it. I do a lot of work with fast-growing companies, with companies that change a lot, changes in their mission statement. I mean, this is just, who's attracted to me, right? So I want to share this with you in light of 2020 and in light of the fact that sisters, we need to buckle up for 2021. COVID is still a thing. It did not go away with the summer. COVID is still very much a thing. We need to be aware of the fact that there are still economic conditions that can dramatically shift things without notice. And there's also societal issues that we are working through. And if our leaders are not equipped to navigate those three areas and more, and navigate the change that's going to come from that, we are going to be in a cluster. And so I am super obsessed with being able to talk to anybody about leadership right now, because now more than ever, we need that solid leadership. We need to know that we can be agile and flexible. So let's jump into stage one of the change cycle. When we are experiencing loss, meaning this is what I had, now there's a takeaway, I've lost my normal. We have feelings of fear. Just think all the way back to when we first started hearing about these weird viruses, or this weird virus that was taking on new strands, and it came out of China, and oh my gosh, New York has it. Will it come to my community? Remember the first time that you had somebody in your city that tested positive for COVID-19? Feelings of fear. Your thoughts are cautious. Your behavior is paralyzed. We just batten up the hatches and hunker down, right? Everybody watch Tiger King. Let's just do this thing. And we had doubt. There was resentment. There was skepticism. We were resistant to change. I'm not wearing a mask. Why do I have to wear a mask? I'm not going to stay at home. I'm an essential worker. No, I'm not coming into work. I don't feel safe. This was all happening in stage one and stage two, that red zone of the change cycle. And this can happen again. This can happen if you just decide to change your branding. This could happen if you have a change in leadership. This change cycle doesn't have to be those giant things like global pandemics or economic crashes. This could be for anything. So just keep that in the back of your mind, and how this might apply in different areas of your business and in your life. Now, once we go through that loss and that doubt, that really scary season, now we're into discomfort. We're still feeling anxious. We're confused because it was this way, but I think it's going to be this way, but I'm not sure because I've never been there before. There's all this new. Is the vaccine going to work? Will the economy turn again? What are our stakeholders going to do? All kinds of questions still. And when we get into that mode, that discomfort mode, where I found myself when I first discovered the change cycle, you become unproductive. You become tired. You feel lethargic. You don't really want to work because you don't understand what that work is going to do or where it's going to get you. And so if you're there, I invite you to take a giant step back. And I want you to start thinking about, what do I know? Do you have a budget? Can you forecast? Do you have anything that's stable? What are the tangibles? What are the things that you know for sure? And then when you can control your controllables, the uncontrollables are not as disabling. So I used to be a celebrity event planner, did all kinds of work in the country music industry and movie studios and all kinds of stuff. And this is what I told my team all the time. 3 major things are going to go wrong per event. So we have to control the controllables. Everything has to be buttoned up as tight as it could possibly be. CMA Awards night, after party, we had flooding in the tents. We had a pizza oven that went down. Something else happened. I don't remember what it was, but when all of the country music celebrities came grinning with their awards, we had all of the controllables under control. So when those uncontrollables happened, like the flood that came out of the sky that night unexpectedly, that was nowhere on the weather forecast, it wasn't that big of a deal because we weren't scrambling trying to do things last minute. We had the bandwidth in order to save the day, if you will. So what I'm inviting you to do when you get to that discomfort level for you, for the leader, is to create margin. Control the controllables so that you can brace yourself for the uncontrollables. You will feel more in tune with what's going on. That will open you up to be a little more flexible, to be more agile, because you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Okay, now if your team members are there, this is a critical time, because this is when they're going to bounce. This is when they're like, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not making enough money. Why are we doing these things? I don't have enough information, and they're out. And now you're dealing with turnover costs, 20% of a mid-level manager. If we're talking about a $40,000 a year manager that you have on your payroll, now you just lost $8,000. That's not good. That's not good for the old P&L. So we want to make sure while these people are at this discomfort level that we increase our transparency. We need to increase our communication. We need to increase check-ins. Your check-in could be simply putting a piece of paper on people's desks with a smiley face, a straight face, and a sad face, and say, this week I want you to circle where you are. Don't even have to put your name. You can get a quick little pulse check with things like that to see where your team is. There's apps that you can use to see where your team is. But as a career communicator, I implore you that you communicate as much as possible so that you can move your team and yourself through to the discovery phase, where we have feelings of anticipation, your thoughts are more creative, you start to see the possibilities, innovation comes in, and you go from that unproductive, lethargic, I don't want to do these things, over to an energized space, okay? This discovery phase is where you start to feel things just kind of roll off your back a little bit more. Everything doesn't seem like crazy train. If you've noticed in the news, or even on your Facebook feed or Instagram or wherever, it's like, there's a meteor coming to hit planet Earth. Oh my gosh, it's 2020. What else can go wrong? In any other year, that wouldn't have even hit the news cycle. It's like some meteor that's going to land in the ocean. It's not going to impact anybody or anything. Killer hornets are in Seattle. Like, I mean, there's just so many things that have never hit the radar. It's like Shark Week, right? When the news gets slow, we're going to start talking about all the shark attacks, which is no different than any other year or really any other season. It's just, when we get fixated on things in that discomfort stage, we're going to amplify them all and be Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? So we want to move over to that discovery phase and encourage your team to do that. Encourage your team through showing them where you're going. Cast that vision, be that thought leader that we talked about last year. Make sure that your personal brand is solid and people know that you can be trusted, that you're going to lead them, that you are not going to let them down, and that things are going to be okay. And if they're not going to be okay, then just call me, because that's sensitive, and I'll help you walk through that it's not okay. It's how I spent the large majority of my March and April, is helping organizations furlough employees. So obviously we don't want to go there, but even with that, as we're moving through the change cycle, the more transparent you can be, good or bad, the better off you are going to be long-term. That's how you're going to get your employees back, just as an aside. Okay, so let's move on from stage 4 to stage 5, where now we're understanding. And I think a lot of us are here at this stage in the game. I think there are some areas where we're still uncertain. Obviously, the presidential election is a big question mark for many of us, which then impacts the economy, which then impacts social situations. So I don't think we're out of the woods, but I do think that many of us who've been able to pivot or take advantage with thoughtful intention and future thinking, take advantage of the boom that your industry has had this year. Hopefully there wasn't a lot of backpedaling to fill in some gaps. Hopefully you were able to squirrel away some acorns in anticipation of the what ifs of 2021. And I don't want you to live in what ifs, although I'm guilty of doing that myself, but being prepared, putting the cookies in the cookie jar so that when you get hungry later, you still have a few. Those are the type of things that you do when you're in stage 5, that understanding. You feel confident, like, I've got this, I can do this. Your thoughts are more pragmatic. Okay, we are no longer in crisis. And I accept that 2021 might not be much easier than 2020. And I don't mean to be doomsday, but I do want to be realistic. We just don't know. Hopefully, it's a kicktail year and we're going to all kill it in our businesses, but we don't know. So we need to be pragmatic about how we operate. And then while we're being pragmatic, that gives us the opportunity to be productive. We are forecasting, we're planning ahead. It's Q4. We should be thinking about our 2021 goals. It's going to be a little bit hard to reflect on the past 3 years in order to forecast that, because this is a very bizarre year. And so now we're going to have to start being very productive in our research around the economy and what economists are forecasting for 2021 and how that might impact our industries. I can tell you, as a professional speaker and someone who deals a lot in hospitality and entertainment, I am not expecting my next year to be a killer year, but I am paying very much attention to the meetings and events industry, the travel industry, the entertainment industry, and I'm also expanding my offerings so that I am going to be more accessible to far more people than I was this year, last year, et cetera. And I invite you to do the same. How can your business model continue to shift and adapt in order to meet the market demands? That's where stage 5 is. Okay, so lost doubt. That was cringy. We didn't know what was going on. We were all hoarding toilet paper. That's not a fun area to live in. Discomfort, that was hard as well. Some of you are still there. Some of your team members are still there. But once you get past that danger zone and you get into that discovery stage, that's where you start to get a little more in a rhythm and you can get into stage 5 of understanding. Then, ideally, we want you to get into integration. You feel satisfied, you feel very focused, you're generous because this is your new normal. As much as I hate to use that term, the unprecedented situation, and we have to get to our new normal. Well, that's stage 6. Okay, so to overuse the term of 2020, that is stage 6. You might be there. And if you are, congratulations. I know many of us are not, and many of us are looking forward to that. But I believe that we're probably going to be hinging between stage 3 and stage 5 for the remainder of the year. And after the election, we might even go back a little bit. 2021, we might go back a little bit. But here's where knowledge is power. If you go back to this, and you could Google the change cycle and find this graphic. If you go back to this in 2021, if the fit hits the shan in 2021, you can say, okay, I am going to power through stage 1. I do not want to live here. I am going to go ahead and get through stage 2. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do all the things that I need to do in order to get past that. And then you can really focus on what is it that I need to do to go from this stage to this stage. And that's what I did when I found the change cycle. That's what my clients do. And I encourage you to do the same. So
Amber,
again,
I have a question that I wanted to introduce, if you don't mind, because I feel the same way about this. Someone wrote in, I find myself vacillating between discomfort and discovery, depending on the day. And I, as you know, because we just spent a few minutes talking about it before this, I feel the exact same way. Like, you know, you get past discomfort and you start getting creative and you start moving into that discovery phase, and then something puts you right back. Like, how do you get to that discovery phase and keep it?
I think my go-to strategy for life is to maintain hope, is to keep that vision. I do a vision board every single year. I encourage my clients and my students to do vision boards. It's to be very clear on where you're going, because if you think about it, when you go on trips, I mean, we're all in travel and hospitality, right? When you go on trips, if you veer off on a wrong road or you take the wrong exit, you're not lost for forever. You're going to find your way back and you're eventually going to get there. Did you lose a little time? Did you get frustrated? Did your spouse and you cuss at each other? Probably. We're definitely back in that discomfort stage. But if we know where we're going, then we know how to get back on the road. And so that's why it's imperative when you are in that creative space, when you're feeling more energized, that you get crystal clear on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It's staying focused and being intentional about going forward instead of just letting things happen to you.
Yeah, and it's your big why. My big why was my daughter, you know, and now I'm just wired that way. But you have a big why. You carry so much weight in your industry by being the voice of the industry. And that's what propels us out of bed every day. So when things are not fun, we have to dig a little bit deeper and say, I am showing up today because this is what I'm here to do. This is my purpose. I don't even like saying this is my passion. We could be passionate about a lot of things, but what are you here to do? That's the key question. And the people who can't answer that are the ones that are going to lay down and get kicked in the teeth. And I'm just going to be straight up about it.
Well, that's a whole
So,
nother series, right?
yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Resiliency, that will be our next series. So
All right, thank you
just
for answering that. I appreciate it.
and you know, the other thing I just want to add real quick is don't beat yourself up when you're in that area of discomfort. I get in that area of discomfort. Everybody thinks that I'm sunshine and roses all the time, and I'm here to tell you I'm not. I overthink. There's all kinds of things that happen. The anxiety is definitely an issue. I'm clinically diagnosed to have anxiety. I have an emotional support animal. Okay, so but I don't let that keep me in that stage. I say, okay, I'm anxious because I'm not meditating, I'm not journaling, I'm not doing the things that I need to do to feed me. And so you've got to do that for you too. You've got to take those time outs. That's why I was on the beach last week. So the red stages help you deal with what was. The yellow helps you assimilate what is going on now and what's going ahead. And then those green stages are where you can see the big picture and then if necessary, make peace with the pieces of the change. And that's another thing too, is accept what is. It's not going to change. If you can't change it, then embrace it and figure out how you're going to create environments around that. And that's how we can become influential. When people say that we're strong and that we actually have our big girl panties on through change, that's when people are going to allow our influence to then impact them and you have a rippling effect. Now, I'm going to ram a jam through what I want you to do next, okay? So through Velvet Machete Leadership, this is my platform, this is my leadership strategy, this is what I teach, okay? That just means that machete, it cuts to the chase. We have the attention span of a goldfish. So especially when you're going through changing your communicating and you're needing to be transparent, you have to be fast. You have to just say what it is. Don't dance around it. Just say what's going on and what the expectation is. But we have to be very aware that how we say things can shift and change depending on the audience. So how you might speak to an investor might be different than how you speak to your frontline leaders. And some of us are a little more sugary, some of us are a little more velvet, some of us are a little more machete, especially when we're dealing with change or we get backed into a corner. And so I want you to think about keeping those two things in balance. Now, the Velvet Machete leadership journey is fivefold. We have 5 pillars. I want you right now to focus on that build your personal brand so that you can confidently define and position your value. I want you to do that with your customers, with your vendors, with investors, with your peers, with your superiors, with your subordinates. I want you to exude what it is that you came to this planet to do, okay? What it is that you bring to the table in your organization. That is critical because again, when you understand what you bring to the table, then with that self-awareness, you can see and harvest the greatness in others. You can start to identify things in others. And then I want you to begin building those supportive environments, creating systems and structures that uniquely support your efforts. And the reason why that is so important, as you are seeing through the change cycle, is that as you are moving through the change, your environments are going to have to change. And that can be everything from just how your office is set up, how your business model is set up. That could be personal things. Like I talked about, I have environments that I create to help bubble wrap my anxiety. So those are the meditation, the journaling, that sort of thing. It could be that you need to exercise more to deal with the stress. It could be that you need to organize yourself better. There's so many areas in this. One of my favorite environments is people environments. Who do I need in my squad? You guys already have that. Amy has created that for you. That's beautiful. Lean on each other. Only then, when you have your personal brand, and then that is fortified by the environments that you have created to help strengthen what is already strong in you, and then you've created some other systems and other environments to just bubble wrap those areas that are a little more fragile. Only then can you start to master your communication. And only when you master your communication can you really be an engaging leader where you can start rallying support. And when all of those things come together, and none of this is a destination, this is all stuff that we have to dip into and weave through as we go about our life. But when you do have at least a solid understanding and grip on those first 4 pillars, then you can start building your influence. And that's where you can guide and focus people towards success, even through change. So, speaking of self-awareness, we just recently released a leadership personality quiz. And this was really important to me because I know there are a lot of quiet leaders out there. There might be some leaders who are a little more introspective. They might not be the most gregarious. And it was really important for me to help you see how those are great aspects of you. You don't need to change those. I want you to be more of that. And so taking this quiz will help you identify what it is that makes you amazing, and then the areas that you might need to bubble wrap in order for you to become that velvet machete, that balance of really being direct, but also communicating your messages with an understanding of your audience and making sure that those 2 things are in balance. You can find that at amberhurdle.com/leadership quiz. So again, amberhurdle.com/leadership quiz. Now, if you want to go deeper, we talked a little bit about this last week. We'll have the sales page ready for you right now. You can just opt in if you'd like. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to go into those 5 pillars with me as your guide, have me twice a week, have your peers with you, develop that people environment, make sure that you have all of your bubble wrap set up so that you can move through that. We are offering $500 off because Amy is a killer negotiator, and so we're going to take the price from $2,500 per person to $2,000, and there will be a 3 payment opportunity as well. But you'll need your code VRM Intel, and that will get you your $500 off for being a part of an organization that I work with, thanks to Amy. And I would love to see you in there. I don't want to take a ton of time to talk about this. You can go to amberhurdle.com/Velvet Machete Leadership Academy. I will tell you that there are some testimonials on there and the shifts and change in leadership for me. That's why I get out of bed every morning. That's what I love to do. That's what I'm here for. I'm the wounded healer. I've been through this, and it excites me to be able to be on that journey with you.